And in July, the Madrasa students and the Islamists did not bleed less than anyone. To deny their role is not just to distort history, it is to betray the revolution itself. The resistance of Muslims in Bengal and its surroundings, it's nothing new. From the days of opposing British colonial rule to standing against an autocratic regime in the July Revolution of 2024, Islamists and Madrasa students have always been one of the fiercest resistance factions against oppression. From Haji Shariatullah's rejection of British injustice, to Titumir's fierce uprising at the Bamboo Fort, to the blood-soaked streets of Shapla Square in 2013, the contribution of Islamists against injustice is undeniable. The July Uprising was no different, no matter how much some try to deny it. The streets of Bangladesh were engulfed in smoke and fire, showered with bullets, tear gas shells, and deafening sound grenades. Yet, the Muslims of this land rose as one. After the Jummah prayer on the 19th of July, they poured out of the mosques in their thousands. Madrasa students, imams, and ordinary believers, all forming a massive force of resistance. They marched fearlessly into the clouds of gas and hail of bullets, breaking the barricades of the police, and their chants of takbir echoed through the streets. That day, the streets belonged to them. At least 10 Madrasa students were confirmed as martyrs on this day alone. It is also important to understand that the July Uprising did not happen in a vacuum. While most of the secularist groups, often addressed as Shahbagis, stood behind Sheikh Hasina's regime in the name of secularism, it was the Muslims of Bangladesh who bore the brunt of her repression for the 16 long years. While the Madrasa students were killed in hundreds at Shapla Square in 2013, while thousands of Islamists and Madrasa students were disappeared, tortured, and jailed, while mosques were surveilled and madrasas were raided, the Muslims of this land stood firm. Even the ordinary worshipper walking to the Fajr prayer was looked at with suspicion, harassed by the police, and interrogated as though faith itself was a crime. In May 2013, when Hifazat-e-Islam did a massive sit-in at the Shapla Square, calling for an end to injustice and blasphemy, the Awami League unleashed one of the bloodiest crackdowns in our history. That night alone, over 100 Madrasa students and activists were gunned down, their bodies left on the streets, and their families silenced. The regime claimed only a handful died, but witnesses and journalists told the world the truth. The streets of Motijil ran red with the blood of the faithful. The Rapid Action Battalion, RAB, disappeared hundreds of Islamists, many of whose families are still waiting for them to come home. Madrasas were branded as extremist breeding grounds, raided without warrant, and their students treated like criminals. Even village mosques were not spared. Imams arrested, sermons censored, congregations spied on. And yet, the Muslims endured. For 16 years, the Muslims of Bangladesh held their ground, bruised but not broken, silenced but not surrendered. And so, when the July Uprising came, it was no surprise that they rose once more, stronger, more determined, and unafraid. On the 19th of July, they formed one of the fiercest resistance after the Jummah prayer. It was the Madrasa students and the ordinary worshippers who flooded the streets, breaking through police barricades in the face of bullets. Their chants of takbir echoed through the nation. But after all this, after the revolution succeeded, after Sheikh Hasina fell, the same old betrayal returned. Some have worked tirelessly to craft an image of the July Revolution that excludes the Islamists and excludes the spirit of Islam that inspired so many to march into the smoke and gunfire. They draw the story of July in posters and banners without showing Islamists or the Islamic sentiment in the uprising. They organize commemorations of the martyrs while refusing to speak the names of those who fell chanting takbir. They speak of the students and the people, but never of the Madrasa students who were there beside others. We now know that these are no accidents. This is the continuation of the same narrative that has poisoned our politics for decades. The lie that Islamists are dangerous, unfit, and unworthy of leadership. This is the same narrative that justified their execution, their massacres, and their disappearances. And now it is being used again, not with bullets, but with silence, to erase them from history, to deny them their rightful place in the story of our freedom. But no amount of silence can hide what happened on those streets. No amount of rewriting can erase the blood they spilled, the courage they showed, the lives they gave. To deny their role is not just to distort history, it is to betray the revolution itself. The martyrs of Shapla Square, the martyrs of the July Revolution, the martyrs of 16 years of the Hasina's regime, they're all part of the same chain of resistance, a chain that stretches back through Titumir's bamboo fort and Haji Shoriatullah's call to justice. Through every moment in our history when the Muslims in Bengal stood against tyranny, and the chain cannot and will not be broken. Our revolution belongs to all who bled for it, and in July, the Madrasa students and the Islamists did not bleed less than anyone. We will not forget them, and we will not let their sacrifice be stolen.